I'm very critical of myself. I have a hard time praising myself in general. I usually focus on what I'm doing wrong and not what I'm doing right. I didn't want to go to the gym and just everything be wrong. I had to adapt this view on, because I had tried diets before, and it's always about how much I hated how I looked and hated how I felt. And I had to change that. I had to change it to a love-based approach. This is how I love myself. This is self-care. This is self-love. This is how I treat myself the way I deserve to be treated. And I had to apply that to the gym as well. Finally got myself to go. I found a very welcoming and encouraging and kind environment at the gym, especially from all the serious fitness men and women. They were the ones that wouldn't let me skip celebrating a milestone, even if I was like, it's not a big deal, stop. They'd be like, no, look what you did. You added another plate or something like that. And that, I think that was a big part of why I kept going.
All right, welcome to the Fit Vegan Podcast. I'm your show host, Maxime Sigouin, and I'm the founder and CEO of Fit Vegan Coaching, a company that is on a mission to help 10,000 people get lean, thrive, and reduce their risk of chronic illnesses by 2033 and 1 million by 2050. I believe that having a fit, healthy body and mind is the foundation to living an incredible life, and this is what the show will give you if you choose to listen and implement. Enjoy the episode and have a great day. All right, good morning, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Fit Vegan Podcast. Today, I'm joined by a very special guest, Bobby Sud. Bobby, how you doing today, man?
I'm good. Thanks for having me on your show.
Yeah, of course. I know we're having dinner maybe a few weeks ago when your brother was down in LA. So yeah, for those of you guys that don't know Bobby, he's a filmmaker, he's a photographer, and I was thinking fair to say that you're an animal activist as well.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Awesome. So I'm curious, when I was doing some research, a little bit more depth research on you, because obviously I know you for maybe like a year now, I think, when we first met.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah. So what came first? Was it filmmaking or veganism?
Oh, it was filmmaking. Yeah. I went to Savannah College of Art and Design, and I majored in filmmaking and specialized in environmental filmmaking. So that came first, yeah.
Okay. And so when did you become vegan in that?
My brother and I went to Nepal. We were there for 12 weeks, volunteering with a program with orphans. And afterwards, because it's primarily vegetarian there. I wasn't vegan at the time. My brother was. And I was feeling so much better afterwards, not just because of all the incredible experience of working with children who change your perspective on life, but because of how much better I felt from basically being vegetarian for 12 weeks. And I had lost 15 pounds or so doing that, not without, just without even trying. And my brother asked me, hey, why don't you move to LA and live with me and adopt my plant-based lifestyle and my plant-based diet? And I agreed. So that January of the next year, which I believe was 2014 or 2015, I moved to LA and became plant-based for health reasons, because I was 300 pounds and type 2 diabetic and, high cholesterol, hypertension, all the stuff that goes along with, eating the standard American diet in excess.
Yeah.
So that came first.
Okay. And so again, you and Adam kind of had a similar situation when it came to health. And so how many...
His was much more extreme than mine, because you throw in addiction and suicide attempts and things like that. So his was much more extreme, and he did it on his own, so to speak. He didn't have someone living with him, creating a fail-proof environment for him that he did for me.
So,
but the results were the same.
Yeah, I was gonna say, how many years before you did Adam make the change before he kind of helped you?
3 years.
Okay, so he's well into it at that point.
Yeah.
Okay, and so so first of all, I'll talk about Nepal. So I didn't know you guys were doing work like that before. Was that kind of your first, I don't want to call it missionary trip, but a kind of first trip you given back?
Yeah. No, Adam had done something in Africa with the World Food Program, along with Whole Foods and my dad. But I remember that year, I was saying how I wanted to travel I didn't have a lot of money to travel with, and I found this program online, GVI, Global Visions International. And I picked it because most of every dollar goes to the programs instead of going to pay salaries.
Yeah.
Um, and my brother said, "Oh, let's do that. You know, like let's make it. You know, let's go travel, but let's do that." Um, and yeah, it was the most one of the most life changing experiences, because the kids we worked with were like ages like 5 to 13.
Okay.
And they were all orphans of either circumstance or runaways from abusive situations. And they're poor. And now, poor in Nepal is not poor in the United States. It's not the same thing,
Yeah.
right? Like, poor in Nepal means maybe you have a roof over your head, but you don't have like running water or electricity or anything like that. Now, they were staying in an orphanage, so they had all of those things, but they had like one change of clothes,
Mm-hmm.
and nothing else, not like toys or anything. And I remember, like, we would get up every morning, we would play soccer with them before school because they loved soccer. Even though myself, my brother, and most of the other people, the volunteering, were terrible at soccer. But um, I remember I decided, I was like, let's go get them all like soccer jerseys, like a matching soccer uniform that they can wear. And it cost us. We went into town. It cost like, there were 7 of us. It cost us all like $3, $3 American each. Like nothing. Like Nepal, everything in Nepal is cheap. And I remember the next day we gave it to them, and it was like we had performed a miracle. Their reactions to 7 people spending $3 on them just so that they could, like, just for fun, right? It was like not in their wildest imaginations. But I never once, not in the 12 weeks we were there, saw them complain about anything, ever. Like, they were not concerned with what they didn't know they didn't have, you know? And that was life changing.
That must have been really rewarding. Was that your first experience in kind of like giving back and
On that
to that
level, yeah.
scale?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. Because I know like from having met you a few times and kind of like doing a bit more research, like you're a very caring person.
Yeah.
So is that kind of where like originally most of it stemmed to want to do things on a greater scale?
Um, that was where, like, wanting that, like, experiencing it started. I mean, I've always cared about giving back and helping people, and I've always cared about the environment and and animals and things. But on that scale, experiencing what it's like to actually have an impact on people in a meaningful way, that's more than just donating or spending an afternoon doing something. That was the first time. Yeah. Yeah, I guess you could
Yeah.
say that's where it started.
Yeah. And what was the organization called? Just so people can look into it.
It's called GVI, Global Visions International, and
Okay. And
they
it's
have
like
programs all over the
.org,
world.
.org, I assume.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Cool. I'll look into it. I've been wanting to do something like that with Ivy. Um, so we'll have to wait like a year or so until I'm allowed to leave the states to go and
Oh,
do that. But
okay.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Well, we'll definitely look into it. So we'd love to talk about like that plant-based transition that you kind of went through with Adam. Like how was that? How was that structured for you?
That was. I mean, it was a whole food, plant based, low fat, diet, um, and it was basically like, just like my brother. I'm somebody who, if I find something that I like, I can eat that pretty much every day. Which was
Yeah.
good because my menu wasn't very big when I first switched to a plant-based diet, because I didn't know what I liked or didn't like. Because my diet before was like cheeseburgers, pizzas, and turkey sandwiches and stuff.
Yeah.
And so it was, I would just have like these giant like broccoli and cauliflower and bean bowls. Oatmeal every morning for breakfast, oatmeal and fruit. That hasn't changed. And
Yeah.
I remember, like, I lost 40 pounds in the first month.
Wow.
I reversed my diabetes in 6 weeks, and then reversed all my chronic illness over the course of that year, including over 100 pounds.
That's crazy. So how old were you when you started? that journey?
33.
You're 33.
Yeah.
Okay. Damn. That is a, like
Or
a
no,
life.
32 going to be 33. Yeah, 32.
Okay. So, but that's still really young. So that's a life-changing amount of weight loss and like health changes at like a really good time.
Yeah.
Right. So you get to kind of enjoy the rest of the 30s basically.
Yeah.
Um, so how many years ago was that? That you kind of
9 years
that
ago.
you've been vegan? Okay. Okay. So we've been vegan about around the same time ultimately. Back when it wasn't as cool, when there wasn't as many options in the grocery store.
Right.
I'm sure it was better in LA than in my small town, but you know, for me, it was like, I don't know if you guys had these. It was tofu flavored banana. It was like, no, sorry, it was like tofu that tasted like banana. That was like the dessert. That's all we had in our town.
No, no, I haven't had that. It sounds
Okay.
terrible.
It was terrible, but that's all I had. That's the only vegan treat we had. um, so, so that's great. So obviously you were exercising while you were doing that, or did
Not
you
at
kind of like
first.
slowly add that after?
Not at first. Because I was in high school, I was a two-sport athlete. I played tennis. I played lacrosse for a little bit, but I broke my arm and I didn't get to play this season. So, I mean,
Okay.
I'm barely a two-sport athlete, you know, but I was
Yeah.
varsity tennis. So, and so I was fit until my health got out of control, and so I was embarrassed uh, to go to the gym at first. I was
Yeah.
embarrassed for like I was going to embarrass myself on like what it was going to look, because I didn't know what the gym looked like as someone who was out of shape, you know, and
Yeah.
I didn't want to know like how poor my physical conditioning was. You know, I was too embarrassed to see that at first. So it wasn't until I had lost 40 pounds that I went to the gym.
Okay.
Yeah.
Are you okay if I dive into that a little bit into
Sure.
like
Yeah.
because I'm very, obviously, I think the max I've ever went was 240 pounds, which is like 50 pounds more than I am now. And I was like out of breath. I was really heavy. But I always went to the gym because I was hooked on it from like the early days. So was it more, what was hard going to the gym? It was more like how it would feel because you didn't know what it was like to work out at that weight, or how it would be perceived.
It was more like being my own toughest critic, sort of. Like I grew up with extremely critical parents, and so I'm very critical of myself. It's something that I've been working on for a long time, but uh, I have a hard time praising myself in general. You know, I usually focus on what I'm doing wrong and not what I'm doing right. And so I didn't want to go to the gym and just everything be wrong, you know, and just have this my own critical eye just going, God, you're really bad at that, and you're really bad at that, and look at how far we've fallen, and things like that.
Yeah. Well, I think what I find interesting is like you can praise yourself for the good or criticize yourself for the bad, but in some odd weird way they still both move you forward. You just feel shittier on one side and better on the other side, but they
Yeah,
somehow both kind of move the needle forward.
yeah.
Like
To an extent, I think. Like I don't think that critical, like negative reinforcement, creates lasting momentum.
yeah, no. Not, eventually you get tired of it. So like
Yeah,
how did you overcome that? Like when in that, was it like you mentioned losing the 40 pounds that got you
that was
back to the
part of it,
place from
and
like,
then you know, I had to I had to adapt this view on what I was doing, because I had tried diets before, and they it was always about how much, you know, how much I hated how I looked and hated how I felt, you know,
yeah.
and I had to change that. I had to change it to a love based approach of, you know, this is how I love myself, and this is self care, this is self love, this is how I treat myself the way I deserve to be treated, and and I had to apply that to the gym as well, even though it was going to be much more embarrassing. I felt, and I was also
Hmm.
worried about, you know, how all the you know the gym rats, like the alpha males and alpha females, what were they going to think? You know, like we're all the gym guys going to be like, look at this fucking loser, and we're all the women going to be like, look, you know, like think that I was ugly and weak. Um, and I when I finally got myself to go, all I found was the opposite. I found a
Yeah.
very welcoming and encouraging and kind environment at the gym, especially from the serious fitness men and women. They were the
Yeah.
ones that like wouldn't let me skip celebrating a milestone, even if I was like, it's not a big deal, stop. They'd be like, no, 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 look what you did. You added another plate or something like that.
Yeah.
Which
Yeah. So
creates an environment that you feel safe to be in, and that you want to be in, and that I think that was a big part of why I kept going.
yeah, because I was gonna say, I was like, it feels more like it's more like a movie thing. I think when you think of like going to the gym, you're necessarily out of shape, and then people are gonna judge. But just like you, my own experiences, like people are always supportive, and I'll admit I've been the bodybuilder at the gym and all that stuff. And every time I see someone come into the gym that are maybe newer to the gym, I'm like, I'll go talk to them because
Yeah,
like it takes a lot of efforts to just even go to the gym and be like, I'm gonna sign up, I'm gonna do this shit, right? Versus the people that are just gonna stay at home and do nothing. So yeah,
yeah,
the gym, it's surprisingly a supportive place for the amount of like muscle and iron and sweat
yeah.
in
It
one
is.
spot. Yeah. So how was it changing your nutrition? Go for, like you mentioned, like cheeseburgers and kind of pizza, to now Adam's like, hey, we're doing like low fat, high carb, whole food, plant based.
Well, yeah. I mean that gave me a lot more energy, uh, and I've you know it's weird. Like at first, it was really frustrating because, and I don't know, I'm not in the health and nutrition space, so maybe this message has changed. But the message that I was getting was, yeah, switch to a plant-based diet. You just eat whatever you want. you know? Which I guess is true if you're already fit. But like, the brand, you remember the brand Engine 2, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I know they rebranded Plant Strong, but then they had this Engine 2 cereal that I loved. I loved it, but it was it was dense in calories and fat because there was a lot of nuts
Yeah.
and I remember wanting to eat it for dinner, and my brother's like, "No, you can't have that." And I was like, "Wait, why not?" He's like, "It's too much calories and fat for you to then go to sleep." I was like, "But you said I
Yeah.
could eat whatever I want." And he's like, "Yes and no."
It's counterproductive, Adam.
Yeah, so that was that was the only really frustrating part. Was like,
Yeah.
okay, I made this and now I want to put avocado on it. He's like, maybe don't.
He's like, I just said that to hook you into it. Eat whatever you want. But now
Yeah.
there's a little few
Which,
rules
like,
and
I mean,
guidelines.
for someone like you, right? Who, like, when you get to the place where you reach your fitness goals and you're living a healthy, active lifestyle, avocado is not a problem, right?
Yeah.
It is if you're dealing with chronic illness and obesity. Only in that, like, the way to reduce fat is to reduce the intake of fat. So it's not that avocado is bad. I'm not trying to say that. I'm saying it is counterproductive to losing weight when you are as obese as I was.
Yeah, there's a time and place. And you're right. When you've reached a certain level of fitness and your metabolism is a certain place, you can afford to eat a lot more food and things don't affect you as much
Yeah,
as they do when you first get started, for sure.
yeah. And I think
Um,
that context gets lost sometimes in our health and nutrition messaging. Right?
for
Is oil
sure.
bad? Right? For some people, you know, for people that
Yeah.
are in the situation that I wanted to avoid oil because it's the highest concentration of fat and calories on the planet. Right? But is it okay for someone, say, as fit as you, to have oil maybe once a day? Yeah. Your long term overall health won't be affected by it.
Yeah, you're right. Like the industry is trying to put out one message for
Yeah.
everyone, but the thing is, everyone is in different position, different health situation, different metabolisms, different body. Yeah, no, you're right. That's why I think people are so confused when it comes to nutrition,
Of
right?
course. I
They'll
mean,
hear like,
if you can
well,
find a bookstore, if you can. I don't know whether they exist anymore, but just go to the health section. It's no wonder
yeah,
everyone's
well,
confused.
talk about bookstores. This is like off topic, but I heard that they're closing 106 locations of Barnes and Nobles. I love Barnes and Nobles. There's
Me
just something
too.
about going into a bookstore and just like the paper and the feel and just like
I agree.
choosing and yeah,
It's like Blockbuster.
yeah, absolutely. Oh man, this is super off topic, but I think it would be interesting. I told Ivy yesterday we need to create our own. We're looking at buying land in Joshua Tree. I'm like, we need to buy enough land to build our own town where we bring it back to like the 80s or 90s, where
Oh
like
my
there's a
God.
Blockbuster, there's a bookstore, and there's like dial-up internet where like things aren't as accessible and you can get like slow down a little bit.
Oh my God,
I
that'd
would
be
live there
amazing.
100%. Yeah. Yeah, as much as they're great tools, like obviously for the podcast and social media and all that, like I love just not being on my phone and being completely disconnected. I miss Blockbuster. There's
So do
something
I.
special about going to the store and just being like, it's special because you have to pick the movie and you got to bring it home and you have to return
Yeah.
it after. Yeah. Yeah. So it's just, and then the tangent. I'm like 50 years old inside. I love this stuff. I definitely want to talk about kind of like your activism. When did that kind of transition from you had your own transformation to now going into more activism, which ultimately kind of tied in the filmmaking side of things later on?
Yeah. I was at SoCal Veg Fest with Adam. Adam was speaking there. And
Okay.
he introduced me to Jean Pierre, who is a vegan lifestyle and fitness coach. He works with Joaquin Phoenix and Ellen and all these. He's been doing it for like almost 40 years.
Okay.
And JP said told, that he was going to this pig vigil that his friend Sean Monson, who directed Earthlings, and Amy Jean Davis, Sean's partner, were doing, and asked if I wanted to go. And I didn't know what that was. I didn't know what a pig vigil was or anything. But he also said that Joaquin Phoenix was going to be there and Moby was going to be there, and that's why I agreed to go because I wanted to meet those people.
Yeah.
And I remember it was the next day, and like that Sunday was just a normal Sunday. And then I was standing on the sidewalk outside of a slaughterhouse near downtown LA. And that first truck came around the corner. And it brought the weight of its reality with
Mm-hmm.
it. And I remember standing in front of the truck. I've said this a lot, but I remember standing in front of the truck filled with 200 6-month-old piglets, giving them water, looking at them, hearing them, touching them, smelling them. And I remember having this realization that I don't know what happens after I die, right? I don't know if there's heaven or reincarnation or afterlife or whatever. I don't know. I hope there is, but I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
But what I do know is that I get to be here as this individual that I am right now once. This individual gets one chance to create as much connection and purpose and love and kindness as I can in my life until my one chance is over. And when that first truck pulled into the gates of the slaughterhouse, I remember thinking that for those 200 individual pigs, that was their one chance. And
Yeah.
everything changed for me after that. And I went and talked to Sean Monson, and I told him that I was trying to be a filmmaker, and he asked me to film one of the vigils. And I did, and I gave him the footage. And then he asked if I wanted to help him shoot his next movie, and that's how it kind of all got started.
Oh, beautiful. What was the next movie you helped them film?
It was called The Agitators. It hasn't come out yet, just because of a certain people dropping out and then adding this. So it hasn't come out yet. But that was my very first experience as a animal rights filmmaker with Sean Monson was like a week later, and
Yeah.
we went to a beef slaughterhouse, like, where they were slaughtering cows, and we were filming on the kill floor during halal slaughter. And he looks at me like when we get there, he's like, "Hey, listen, this is gonna be trial by fire for you." He's like, "But I need you to have a poker face the entire time, right?
Mm-hmm.
You cannot show any emotion, because if people see us, like employees, whether they know you're allowed to be there or not, so many employees, especially on border states like California, a lot of them are either undocumented or at least new citizens, and this is a job that they have because they have no options. right? So
Yeah.
they don't want to raise their voice. They don't want to cause any trouble. So they usually don't. If they see you, whether they know you're supposed to be allowed to be there or not, they don't say anything. But if
Yeah.
you are crying, they might.
They'll know
So
you're not supposed to be there. Yeah.
yeah.
That must be
So
hard
yeah,
though.
and afterwards I gave him my footage, and I told him and everyone, I was like, don't call me, and
Yeah.
I holed up in my apartment for like 2 weeks, which is the last thing I should have done. I didn't know how to deal with it.
Yeah. Well,
And
it's a lot.
I should have just told Sean, I was like, hey, can I just come over and watch a movie or something?
Yeah.
But
Yeah. Well, it's a lot to process. Not a lot of people get to see that firsthand, right?
yeah, it's certainly, it's in, in halal slaughter and kosher slaughter as well, which is not a captive bolt. They cut their throat with a knife. And
Yeah.
it's very gruesome,
I feel like that's worse
It
because
is
I feel like
worse.
that's slow death
It's
than like,
100% worse. And both
yeah.
halal and kosher, I'm Jewish, and I was always told that, you're told by your rabbi that like kosher is kind. They say that a lot.
Yeah.
And it's not because they're trying to hide anything. They don't know either. I guarantee you they don't. I guarantee you that they haven't gone to see how it happens. They just want to believe it's true.
Yeah.
And you want to believe that whoever your spiritual leader is a good person, and they are. They don't know,
Yeah.
And so you just accept it.
Yeah, like most people don't have access to that. I've seen that. I've never been to more of like an industrial setting, but I did grow up on a farm where we had cows, we had chickens and geese, and we kind of like we killed our own animals for meat back then, which is a big reason also I'm vegan now. But yeah, I can't even imagine seeing that on such a large scale, like so many animals. So you mentioned you went back to your apartment for 2 weeks, but I know for a fact that you went back out because you continued to do more work after. So
I
how
did, yeah.
many, yeah. So what got you to kind of like go back into it?
Yeah, they we had vigils every week, and so I even though I had holed up in my apartment, I was still going to the vigils.
Okay.
And I was taking photos of the pigs when I was there, and the photos were pretty good. And I talked to Amy, who was the founder of LA Animal Save, Sean's partner at the time, and I asked her, I was like, "Is there any way I can like be a part of this?" And she made me an organizer, and I organized pig and chicken vigils every week for 7 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did you ever, we just had a podcast come out with Alexandra Paul. You familiar
Sure,
with
I know
her?
Alexandra.
Yeah. So her podcast just came out today when we're recording. So, but yeah, we talked about how she got arrested and stuff. Was that with you guys?
She didn't get arrested with us, but she has rescued a chicken with me before.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah,
That's
I've been
awesome.
lucky to I've rescued personally over 100 animals off of slaughter trucks. So, which is
Nice.
like, I don't know if I could have done it for 7 years if I wasn't also doing that.
Yeah. So I'm assuming there's like a bunch of, do you keep them in LA in animal sanctuaries? Like, how does that work? What happens with the animal after you guys save them?
So first I find a sanctuary that has room. We won't take an animal if we have nowhere for them to go.
Okay.
And so a lot of them went to sanctuaries like Love Always Sanctuary, which is Amy Jean Davis, her sanctuary. Others went to like Kindred Spirits Care Farm. They were the first sanctuary to take our first 3 chickens.
Okay.
And then other places like Little Bitty Animal Sanctuary, which is in Ranchita, which is kind of a drive. But yeah, the good thing about chickens is that like if a sanctuary has chickens, adding one more doesn't really add to their operation costs.
Yeah.
The only problem is that a lot of sanctuaries zoning will only let you have so many roosters because of noise. And it's like, I can be 80% sure if a chicken is a rooster or a hen, but you can't be 100% sure until they either lay an egg or crow. because
Yeah.
some hens have a big comb and wattle, even though they're not supposed to, and some roosters have a very small comb and they're supposed to have a big one. So you
Yeah.
can't really know, and that's when it gets hard.
Yeah. Okay. So what are you mentioned I think 2, 3 of them. What are the ones in LA that people can come and see? You can come and visit and
There's still
support.
some at Love Always Sanctuary, and there's still a few at Kindred Spirits Care Farm.
Okay. I've never
Yeah,
been to one in LA yet. I've only been to some of them in BC, in Vancouver, where I was living. But I'd definitely love to come and check some down
yeah,
here. It's
you,
the
you definitely should.
Yeah, it's the first time I ever played with a cow because growing up on a farm, the cows were for like meat and dairy, and so when I got to the animal sanctuary, they had like a big beach ball, and I was playing like fetch. The cow was like
Yeah,
jumping
the cows love
sideways and had
that.
like
They do. They bounce
big
like a
eye.
dog and jump. Yeah,
Yeah, so it was like a really big dog, and I was like, holy shit! You never see that behavior from a cow,
of
but I feel
course
like
not.
you can tell that the animals in a sanctuary, like they know they're free, like that they know that they act differently when they're in an environment where they're not as stressed, and it
Absolutely,
shows definitely. Like I looked at it, I was like, that's a happy cow. You can tell in its eyes, you can tell in its like,
one
yeah,
hundred
it's a big
percent.
difference.
And it's really interesting. Chickens are treated horribly. I mean, all the
Yeah,
animals are, right? But chickens,
yeah,
like Sean and I have been inside factory chicken farms, and we've been inside where uh, either our respirators, we didn't have them, or it wasn't working, and we could
yeah.
last in there about 15 minutes before our throats were on fire because the ammonia is so high.
Smell. Yeah, we had
Yeah,
chicken
and that
farms
ammonia level
before. It
gets so high
smells.
sometimes that the chickens, it'll burn their eyes blind. Like those are the
Oh
and
wow.
in 50 days, like
Yeah,
those are the conditions they live in. Uh,
yeah,
and every chicken I've rescued, within 8 hours, they are just cuddle bugs. They just
yeah,
trust you, even though they have no reason. They have every reason not to trust me as a human being.
yeah.
And it's really it's heartbreaking.
Yeah, and I think it's for people listening. It's something to experience. An
Yeah,
animal that's in a sanctuary that knows that it's free. It definitely acts very differently, and it definitely changes. Obviously, seeing the slaughterhouse is one thing that will change your perception about consuming animal products. But to me, being an animal sanctuary is like just kind of reconfirmed everything even more because like wow, that's how they would act. That's how they would be if we didn't come in and trying to eat them. Yeah, yeah, so just an invitation for people to go and check that out. um,
absolutely.
I love to talk about when I was doing a bit of research into the work that you did. I saw you worked on a show called Peeled, which is a vegan cooking competition show. Ivy
Yeah,
and I love watching like cooking shows, and like there's not a lot of like vegan ones, so we don't watch too many of them, but I never knew that there was a fully vegan one. So how was it working on that?
yeah. That was an interesting shoot. I was just hired as a cinematographer. I had nothing to do with like the creation of the show or anything like that. Um,
Yeah.
and I believe that we shot one episode. I believe it's on Unchained Network,
Okay.
which is Jane Velez Mitchell's network. Um,
Yeah.
Full disclosure is it's like it's not a great show. Like
Okay. I haven't watched. I watched their preview. I was just so happy that there was a vegan cooking competition.
yeah, it's not going to be a show.
Okay, that's
Yeah,
why there's only one episode.
yeah.
Okay. Well, what are other projects that you worked on? I think there was like a travel cooking one. I think you did a few episodes of that as well.
I did that. So after working with Sean for a little bit, I produced my own vegan travel show uh, with a friend of mine, Ali Eisman, who was the host. And we went
Okay.
to Israel and Ireland, and we did episodes on vegan food and culture in other countries because that's what I love to travel. I've always loved to travel, and I wanted to know what the vegan experience was like in other places than LA, or other
Yeah.
places than the United States. So I went to Israel, which was the highest vegan per capita country in the world. And then I
Yeah.
went to Ireland, which, you know, from
It's an interesting
everything that I
choice.
have heard, they're very far behind on all cuisine. You know?
Okay.
So I kind of wanted to like bookend like two opposites on the spectrum of like how their vegan like culture is going. And
Yeah.
yeah, it was a lot of fun. Uh,
So, who? Someone told me. When did you go to Ireland to film that show?
that would have been like 2016, I think.
Okay, because someone told me that they went somewhere around there. I thought it was Ireland, but they're like, dude, there's vegan food everywhere.
Yeah, there
Like,
is. It's everywhere.
okay,
I mean, yeah, every culture has vegetables. Except for maybe I don't know the Inuits that
yeah,
in northern Alaska, or maybe they don't, and I know that that's just because everything's frozen.
it
Uh,
makes sense.
so like people had asked me like, well, what are you going to eat when you go here? What do you? I was like, everywhere has vegetables. Every culture eats
Yeah,
vegetables. It's fine.
yeah, and
Israel is
grains and
very easy.
legumes.
Israel's very easy to be vegan. I talked to even some of the members of the IDF, and they have like vegan options in their military. Uh, and then in Ireland, there was a lot less options, but it was cool because like the people who had restaurants knew that even though it was a competitive, like they were competing, they were
Yeah,
stronger with more of them. So while
yeah,
so they would recommend each other, you know, when I would get there, like, oh, have you gone here? Have you gone here? Have you gone here? It was very cool.
yeah. Definitely not something you see in America for sure.
No,
Yeah. So, just to kind of go back on this, so Adam made you move here from LA, which I didn't know Adam lived in LA before, and then he left you, and he just went to
he
Texas.
did. Yeah,
Ah, unbelievable.
yeah, yeah.
So, talking about LA, what are some of your favorite spots that you like to eat at? I was trying to remember the name of the one we had dinner at last time.
Oh, that was the ramen place. I can't remember. It has a weird name.
Uh, Ramen
Uh,
something, yeah. But what are some of your go tos? I know Love Life was on there. I wish it was still open because I freaking
there
love
was.
their dishes. It's so good.
Yeah, Little Pine was one of my favorite places. It's not
Little
here around
Pie,
anymore. Little Pine. Uh,
Little Pine.
that was Moby opened it and then he sold it right like right after the pandemic or right during the pandemic. And my friend of mine, Steve Bellamy, purchased it. Uh, and so, but like some of my favorites right now are like I think the best is Pura Vida.
Yeah,
Uh,
okay, yeah, I ate
and
there.
I think they're all Italian. They have a restaurant in West Hollywood and in uh, Redondo Beach, and I think their food's incredible. Um,
Yeah,
Planta is great. Uh,
is there a Planta here?
there's two now. There's one in Marina and one in Brentwood.
Oh shit, I've only had one in Miami. I've never tried one
Yeah,
there.
yeah. There's like 13 or 14 worldwide. They're in Toronto is where they started, and then there's a bunch in the U.S. now too. The one
Okay,
in Brentwood just opened, and I think the one in
okay.
Marina opened last year.
Oh,
Uh,
nice. Okay, so
but
you
yeah,
got
Planta's
Planta,
really
Pura
good.
Vida in there.
Uh, Nick's on Beverly is good. I like
That's
Nick's.
pizza, right? Is it
No,
pizza that
well,
one?
it's they have pizza and their pizza's awesome, but they have it's Italian and it's like a kind of a fusion of other things. But yeah,
Okay. I think Nimai told me about that one. It's like they had
yeah.
good pizza. That's why I thought about pizza.
Pura Vida has a pizza restaurant also, and their pizza's really good too. But the best pizza in the world, the place that ruined pizza for me, is called Purezza in London, and it's all vegan. It's started by these Italian guys, uh, and they won best pizza in Europe. Not best vegan pizza in Europe. They won best pizza in Europe as a vegan
Oh,
restaurant.
wow.
And I ate there, and now every pizza I have is just okay.
Yeah.
And pizza is my favorite thing in the world. I think it's the greatest culinary achievement in human history. And now, like nothing compares to Purezza. I've got to go back.
Oh, I definitely want to try that out. I know there's a lot of vegan restaurants in London, right? It's pretty like
London's my
vegan
favorite
friendly.
vegan food city. It's incredible. I remember I went there a long time ago when I was like in my early 20s before I was vegan, and I hated the food. It was awful.
Yeah.
And I went back in like 2018, and every place, and I was vegan obviously, and every
Yeah.
place was incredible, and there were so many options.
Yeah.
And like these friends of mine, they started a place in Brixton called Blank Coffee, and it's I found it by mistake. I was up at like 6 in the morning, and I was staying near Brixton, and I was just looking for a coffee shop that was open, and they were like in walking distance. So I was like, oh, I'll just go here,
Yeah.
not knowing what it was. And
Yeah.
it's the best brunch I've ever had in my life. And
Oh,
they make
beautiful.
it all there. It's incredible.
Yeah, I'll put that on my list for London. Another one I heard is New York apparently is pretty good when it comes to a vegan
New
spot.
York, yeah,
Yeah,
definitely.
wasn't a documentary the new one with Nimai, what you are what you eat or something on
Oh
Netflix?
yeah,
Did you see that one?
I
It
haven't
was
seen it
is
yet.
it oh, okay, they talked about is it 11
11 Madison
Madison?
Park.
Yeah, so they went
Yeah,
fully vegan and a few Michelin stars still.
yeah. They're one of the best restaurants in the world.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
definitely told Ivy we're gonna go there this year.
They closed down, during the pandemic, and when they opened back
Yeah,
up, they opened back up as a plant-based restaurant,
yeah.
which is amazing because they were already one of the number one restaurants in the world, and I'm sure a lot of people were like, "What are you doing?" You
Yeah,
know?
well, I think it's in the document. They got a lot of backlash from it, right? It's
I'm
like it's gonna
sure.
crash, and yeah, I want to try to get that chef uh, on the show because like, what goes through your mind when you're already at the top and you're like, let me just go in this completely different. I'm happy he did
Yeah,
because I feel like there's not a lot of fine dining for vegan.
there's not.
Um, I I feel like I was talking to oh
There is
shit, I
in
forgot
London
his
though.
name.
There's a place called Gautier Soho. Chef
Yeah.
Gautier runs it, and it's incredible.
Okay, because I feel like that one, 11 Madison would be one, and I think the only one I was told is like obviously Crossroads here is nicer, but I heard the
Yeah.
Crossroads in Vegas is a lot better.
Oh, okay. I haven't
Uh,
been to the one in Vegas.
yeah, I was like it's like a proper super chic restaurant. Here it's nice. You can dress nice and kind of go there.
Yeah, it
Do
has
you
a
know of
nice
any?
bar. It's a place to dress up for a date and things like that, and and celebrities go there, so you might see somebody. So.
Yeah, well, I met Travis.
Oh, Travis
Um,
Barker.
yeah, I met him at Mac and Sushi in Agora Hills.
Oh,
He
it's
was
my
just
favorite sushi place.
we went there yesterday, last night.
It's so good.
Yeah, we go there once a week. They know us by name now. They're like, "You guys want the same thing?" I was like, "Yes, please." Spend way too much money there. They're awesome sushi. They're great, but man, you don't come out of there under 100
Oh yeah,
bucks
I know.
for two people. Yeah, awesome. Well, I had another question for you. Is like, what is something that people don't know about you that you love to share with people?
Uh, I don't. I mean, I'm pretty open. Uh, I
That's
don't
okay
know
if you
what
don't
I.
have anything. Because I obviously talk about photography, filmmaking, like activism, your transition. Um, but yeah, I just want to like leave the floor if there's something that comes up.
I love boxing.
Hmm.
I love it.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Oh,
Um,
nice. What,
ever since I
you
was
and
a
Adam ever
kid.
box?
Yeah, we did, and we were
Okay.
junior Olympians. Uh,
Oh wow.
um, and we grew up, thinking that Mike Tyson was a superhero. Uh,
Yeah.
I'm still a huge Mike Tyson fan. Um, but yeah, I still box. I love boxing.
Oh, beautiful. I thought about taking it up because it got really popular on YouTube for a bit, and I
Hmm.
was like, it must be fun to kind of learn to box, and then I remember every time I've done martial arts in the past and I got like a hit to the head, how much my head was like shaking. And I was like, man,
Well,
I do not want to take a hit to the head at all.
you you can do boxing and martial arts without actually fighting anybody. You
But I think
know.
like that's the part that appeals me about it is
Yeah.
like that, just like the raw masculine thing of just like fighting, but I don't want to get hit in the head. So either I have to be really good and never get hit, or I just take it
I
slower.
love the mastery involved of throwing perfect punches and because most people will say, oh, power comes from your hips or things like which is part of it, but like power for punches comes from your toes, uh,
Okay.
and like when you feel everything work, like transitioning the power from your big toe on your back foot all the way up your leg, shifting it from your hips, snapping it through your shoulder, and connecting it to your fist. Like when all that works perfectly, oh, it's like it's just one of my favorite things.
Nice. I can kind of figure out what that feels like for me. I used to play basketball. when that ball goes in the net perfectly, you just hear the little swoosh, like you don't touch
Just like
anything.
that.
Like I get that feeling. Yeah, I get it. It's like
Yeah.
that was perfect.
Yeah.
I want every shot, every hit I take to be like this.
Exactly.
Yeah. Awesome. And so one last question for you. Like what are some of the projects that you're working on that people can show some support? Or people can learn
Right
more
now,
about what you're
I'm
doing?
working on a book. So I'm doing a book of photography of the 7 years I spent documenting animals in transition to slaughterhouses. So
Okay.
in transport trucks and arriving at slaughterhouses. Um, and I've been helping Sean here and there do a documentary about Dr. Michael Greger in his book How Not to Die.
Yeah.
So I just saw like the first. I was just at Sean's house yesterday, and he showed me the first like 10 minutes of it. So that was cool. So
Nice.
yeah, so that's going to be. I don't know when that's going to be coming out, but it is going to be coming out. So
Okay. Well, when it comes out, let me know. Would love to promote it.
okay,
Because I know a lot of my audience loves Dr. Greger and probably has a copy or two of every single book that he's ever written.
yeah,
Yeah. Awesome. So how can people stay tuned for like your book? Where can they find more information? Those would be like your Instagram,
yeah.
website.
My Instagram. So it would be at Bobby Sud.
Okay.
Is my Instagram. I'm Robert Sud on Facebook. I post. So I do. I'm almost exclusively Instagram, and like things get posted on Facebook because they post immediately to Facebook from Instagram. So that's
Yeah.
Instagram's the best way to get in touch with me or follow me.
Okay, perfect. Well, I'll put
Yeah.
the link to your Instagram down below so it's easier for people to click. So if you're on podcast platform, YouTube, the link will be right there.
Okay.
Go follow Bobby. If you have questions for him, so they can just reach out. So looking for different organizations to work with or projects to kind of bring you on. And Bobby, I always like to end on like words of wisdom. What is something that you've kind of learned in your past 7 years of activism and vegan and 9 years of veganism that you like to pass off to the audience?
Be kind because it's humanly possible. That's
Beautiful.
it. Yeah.
Short and sweet.
Yeah.
Love it. Awesome. Well, Bobby, thank you for coming on the podcast, man. I appreciate it. I'm happy we got to connect on a longer time frame. At dinners, it's always like a bunch of people and a little bit of back and forth. So I'm happy we got to have a deeper conversation.
Me too. Thanks. Thank you for having me on the show. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, of course. But people needed to hear your story. I learned a lot from you. Obviously, at dinners you talk, but I definitely got to learn a lot more about you. And
Well,
so I hope
usually,
that
like
people.
if we're having dinner, it's like it's you and my brother and other like fitness guys, and I'm just like, you guys hear about animals?
Yeah.
And then you guys look at me like, no, dude, we're talking about this.
We're talking about macros and protein.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I'm happy we got to connect. I know the audience really enjoyed it as well. And so for the people listening, thank you very much for tuning in. Go check out Bobby's Instagram, subscribe, like, do everything you need to, whatever platform you're listening on. And we'll see you guys in the next episode. Bye.
Thanks.